You're listening to the official podcast of Bloodstock Open Air Festival. Bloodstock Radio.
Human mind, Hello, good evening and welcome to Bloodstock Radio podcast number 58, opening with a new track from Bloodstock 2019 band Children of Bodom. That was called This Road from their forthcoming album Hexed, which is out on March the 8th. Okay, I'm going to keep the waffle to a minimum as we had our third Bloodstock 19 headliner Parkway Drive announced at the weekend, which caused a lot of discussion. So I'm going to replay an interview that we did with Bloodstock director and band booker Vicky Hungerford back in 2017, which gives you some insight into the factors that are involved with booking bands for Bloodstock. So let's hear that again right after this week's Metal to the Masses update.
Metal to the Masses update.
Hi, it's Dan Barrett, resident soundboy from DB Sounds with your Metal to the Masses Essex update. We are now 2 shows in. All bands that have taken part have been amazing and have 4 acts in the semi-finals. Congratulations to Harada and Seawolves who are joining Goatman soon and Collected. Thanks to everyone that has attended the first 2 heats. If you have missed them, no worries. Heat 3 kicks off on Friday the 15th of February. You can find out more over on Facebook at Metal to the Masses Essex. Till then, stay heavy.
Hello, Jake from Metal to the Masses Sheffield here. After a heat, which was a lot better than the game that followed it this Sunday, our wise as owls judges and fans put through Against the Grain and Amnesia. This week, we're back on a Thursday, which is Thursday the 7th, at the Mulberry, £5 as always. We'll see you there.
All things Bloodstock.
Okay, so next up here on Bloodstock Radio, it's time for us to have a chat with our very own Wonder Woman. It's Bloodstock Festival Director Vicky Hungerford. How are you doing?
I'm great, and what a great intro that was.
I thought so.
Brilliant. Wonder Woman. Yeah, I like what you did there.
Well, you know. Okay, so in the extremely unlikely event that some of our listeners don't know who you are, can you please give us a brief overview of when and how you first got involved with the festival and roughly what you do?
Yes, well, I'm one of the directors. I am the founder's daughter, one of the founder's daughters, and I've been with the festival since day one, since 2001, and my role now is the band booker for the festival. So I book all the bands for the main stage, and then I also book the bands alongside Simon for the Sophie Lancaster stage. Okay. So I get a lot of the criticism when we do the announcements. If anything goes terribly wrong, we announce somebody that people don't like.
Really?
Which is fine.
Do we get criticism? I can't.
Well, apparently, a little bit, I think, but there we go.
Yeah.
But it's all in good fun. I've got very thick skin.
Yes.
Which comes with doing this for so long.
Well, hopefully, we can help explain to our audience here what all the factors are that are involved in that and why we can't just book all their favourite bands. But we'll come to that in a little bit. So, what do the others do? What do Adam and Rachel and the other guys do alongside you in the team?
We all work very closely as a team. Even though we've got our own roles, we work incredibly well together. So we do dip into each other's areas where we need to. Adam deals a lot with the sponsors and works with Rachel, because Rachel controls the infrastructure and she's sort of the unsung hero, really, because the whole festival being put together, the site layout, all the integral things of the festival, Rachel coordinates. And the problem is Rachel, I suppose, doesn't get the sort of, acclaim in one respect, because she does the thankless job alongside the rest of the team of the infrastructure of how the festival's built. So making sure the staging, the lighting, everything like that comes together. Adam works with the sponsors and the concessions. So he'll do all the bars, the concessions, all the sponsors. When we have all the sort of people on site, he deals with the strongmen. Any entertainment that we have, he'll normally coordinate that as well. Okay. But we all work so closely as a team, so we all have our individual roles, but because we're family, we all pull together. this corporate body saying you have to do this, you have to do that, which is good.
Cool. Yes, it is, and it's very noticeable as well. As someone that got involved, behind the scenes as well, it's also very noticeable how well you all work together as well.
Yeah, you've got to, because you're working all year round together, and your family. So working with the dynamics of your brothers and your sisters and those people that you'd normally squabble with as a kid, when you go into business later in life with them, you've got to get on, and we are best of friends.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so onto the band bookings then. You've got your ideal audience here, because I genuinely have no idea what is involved in booking a band to play at a festival like ours. So if you don't mind, we'll do a little bit of role play. Remember that you've got to keep swearing to a minimum, Vicky, okay?
Oh dear, I'm trying to keep the potty mouth under control.
Okay.
No, mouth of a sailor. Yeah.
So I'm going to be one of those people whose gripe is basically when we announce 10 bands, they might like 3 or 4 of them, but they're always going to moan about the one that they don't like. So why can you not book all my favourite bands and have them all playing over the weekend, Vicky?
Wouldn't that just be the marvellous situation to please 20,000 people?
Yes.
Basically, and the nuts and bolts of it is, it's band availability. So a lot of people will say, well, such and such has been announced for another festival in August. But what they don't take into account is all the things that go with it. The cost of bringing the band to play our festival, whether the band has got another tour on, whether the band are even in August, that time of year, because they might be playing a festival in June or July, but they might be another part of the world in August. We also have bands that are playing festivals in June, July, but they're then going to the studio to record albums.
Yeah.
So logistics is one of our biggest problems. If it's not because the finances don't work, and being brutally honest, that happens. A band will say that they're worth X. To our festival, they're not, but in Europe, they might be worth 3 times the price.
Yeah.
So that can be a stumbling block. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Logistics of getting bands over for tours, for the fact that there might be other festivals that they've got to play that weekend, because we're on, but there are also 2 or 3 other festivals on in Europe the same weekend as us that are metal festivals.
Yeah.
So we might have the Saturday free, but they can only do the Friday.
Yeah.
So all these things add up. And, I'm booking bands now for 2018. So we're well into the booking process, and we're having to book that far ahead. I'd love to get all the bands, and I'd love to, there's bands that break my heart we couldn't get. We couldn't get Judas Priest this year.
Yeah.
Just didn't work. And trust me, everything went into that booking process to get Priest to play.
Yeah.
It just didn't work. The cycle didn't work. The band had other things on at that time, and no one's more heartbroken than me when it's a big crowd pleaser for the festival and it just, for whatever reason, doesn't work. I think people think we sit here and don't try, but if they knew the effort that went in and how disappointed I get, I've had it before where I burst into tears because a band doesn't work. Yeah. And it's frustration because you've tried everything to get that band and it just hasn't worked.
Yeah.
It's a difficult job. It's a rewarding job because when you do get those bands that you want, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. So, how do you decide what the popular bands are and which are the best bands to book for BOA? What sort of decision making goes into that? Is there some sort of committee? I know the Rock Society. I think
we've got. We listen to the fans hugely. We listen to the Rock Society. We listen to our own fans. Whether or not people think we do, we go through the Facebooks, the forums, and we see who people are asking for. Obviously, we have an inner circle, which I like to refer to it as, which is a team of people that have been with the festival for years, right from the day one. And we band different bands around between us. I talk a lot with other festivals, particularly Brutal Assault, Summer Breeze, because when we're all booking bands for the same time period, it's good to work with other festivals to see who they're thinking of bringing over.
Yeah.
And if we can all agree on a particular band that we want to bring over, you're then giving that band the opportunity to play three festivals, so to speak, and there's a higher chance of you getting that band to play. So the inner circle, we'll pick our short list of 150 bands across the weekend. We'll break that down into headliners, special guests, mid-cards, Sophie stage headliners, and then I will basically go after them.
Right.
And I'll liaise with the agents. And, there's a core base of agents that I deal with. It's a lot of agents are the same agents because the metal world has particular agents that deal with heavy metal bands.
Yeah.
So, I've struck up over the years incredibly good friendships with the agents. So we can be very candid about who we can get, whether it's viable, whether it's going to work. And they'll come to me early on, sometimes months in advance, and say, we think such and such band is going to be available.
Right.
So I'll shortlist it with the group, and then I'll go after the bands and start sending the offers in to see if we can get the bands locked in.
Yeah. Okay. So the band booking side of things, you mentioned earlier on about Adam and Rachel's roles in it as well before. The band booking thing must be an awful lot of pressure, because that's the sort of outward facing thing of it. Adam gets the commercials going, and we get sponsors, and we get all those, and as you say, Rachel does the thing, but it's sort of very much behind the scenes role, whereas your role is very public facing, and for for a lot of people, obviously, I'm specifically not saying all people, because I'm a person that does not go to. I've never gone to Bloodstock for the lineup ever, really. I think there was the first time I went was because Zentrix were announced. There was one band because they're my favourite band, and then after that, it's literally just been I love the place. But obviously, for a lot of people, the lineup is the key factor. So it's a lot of pressure involved in that, and that the attendance will very much depend on the band names that end up on that poster. So how do you deal with that pressure?
It's I used to sort of break years and years ago in the early days, because I would get so frustrated of not getting certain bands, and then if we'd announce a band people didn't like, and I'll refer to Europe when we announce Europe.
Yeah.
On the forums, we had hundreds of pages of abuse. I had about 3 death threats because we'd booked a band that people deemed not to be suitable.
Wow.
As it happened, it was one of the bands of the weekend.
Yeah.
It worked out great. So you've got to take it. I mean, now I don't let things bother me. I know that if you look at the festival as the overall headliner, and if you know that there's 150 bands, you've got to accept you're not going to like them all. Even if you don't like the headliners or special guests, there will be other bands on the bill. And I try and push it to people that you have to just accept that. You're getting 4 days of incredibly good music. And I look at it that I know confidently we don't let people down with the bands that we book. And even if people say, oh, it's a shit lineup, it's not the same as it was last year and all the rest of it, I don't believe that, because I know what we're offering is great. And I know it's not just the bands, the feel of the festival and everything else. So the pressure now doesn't get to me. Yes, I still get very passionate and stressed. I put everything into the band booking, but I don't let it get to me like I used to. And it did used to really get to me. Mm-hmm. And I used to, every time we did an announcement, I would read through the forum comments and get so upset if people had put things about, oh, this festival doesn't know what it's doing, da-da-da-da. And it would really grate on me. I wouldn't sleep at night, and I'd get really emotional about it. And as the years have gone on, maybe my skin got thicker, which it has to. And I've just kind of thought to myself, well, you're not going to please everybody. I think you've got to live by that mentality. As long as you know you're doing everything to put on the best bands that you can, and we do that, then I sleep fine now.
Yeah.
And I know that people are going to come and have the best weekend of the year.
Yeah, I find it difficult because I'm generally a positive person anyway. So when I mentioned before about the 10 bands, I mean, the announcements that were made just this week on Tuesday, Eradicator, they are one of my favourite bands ever. I saw them on 2014, the New Blood stage, and I've been waiting ever since for them to actually get named back. So I will go on there and I will say, absolutely delighted for Eradicator and Ramage Inc. as well, who I saw at the weekend as well at Uprising. Amazing bands. But there were people going on there just saying, "Oh, I can't believe you've named Puppy," or "I can't believe and just one. Why? I just don't get the negativity of people to actually hone in on one band and just say, "Oh, they're rubbish." Well, there's going to be loads of other things to do at the same time. So why don't you just concentrate on the positives? Were there any in the mind that you did like? Why not just mention the one you like and never mind the other 8 if you didn't like the other 8?
Because that's not what we do. That's not what the public do. And we're vocal and very passionate about things we don't like. We're not so vocal as the British public about being incredibly vocal about what's great.
Yeah.
And that's with lots of things. So, yes, you're right. People are incredibly vocal about that one band they hate, and they can't believe we booked them. But then they haven't told you about the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bands that they love.
Yeah. And you know, I've said to people before, they're just sort of like, oh, I'm not going this year. It's a really crap lineup. And I'm like, well, can we, if you just, I remember writing a reply to one and just said, listen, all you need to do is rewrite, look at what you've written, but go back to the beginning and just add at the front, in my opinion, this is a crap lineup, and I won't be going this year, but I hope everyone else has a great time, and I'll probably be back next year. That way you've still given your opinion that it's not a great lineup for you, and that's great, because everyone's different, everyone's fine, but you can still be positive about it. You can still basically say, I'm going to give it a miss this year. It's an expensive weekend. It's not really for me musically, but I hope everyone has a great time. I'll have a look next year. Not just say it's a crap lineup, because it's not. It's a crap lineup for you. Everyone else is going to have a great time.
Exactly. But then if you don't, I mean, we try and balance it. So you've got your black metal, your death, your thrash, you know, a lot of the new metal bands. We try and balance it across the board so there's something for everybody across all stages. You know, people say, oh, there are people that message me and say, well, I've added all the bands on the lineup and you've got 4 black metal bands and you've got, 8 thrash bands, but you've got no power bands. Why have you made that decision? People genuinely think we go out of our way to alienate a genre, which we don't. No. It is all down to logistics, and that's another thing people have got to remember. We started as a power metal festival. Honestly, if we only booked power metal bands now, we wouldn't still be here.
No, of course not.
That's what people have got to remember. 12, 15, 20,000 people would not come to a UK event if it was based on what we started as at 700 people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely understood. Cool. Right, so we've got it. So everyone needs to shut up whining.
Everyone needs to shut up whining. Yeah. Or whine politely.
Exactly. Or whine in a positive manner. That's
correct.
Right, okay, so we've sorted that out. That's all good then. So so let's fast forward now to actual Bloodstock weekend. You've done your job, so you just sit on your arse all weekend and watch bands, yeah?
Yeah, basically. Do you know what? Adam would probably tell you, and Rachel, that is what I do. In fact, I'm the only one of them, just so you know, that refuses a walkie-talkie. Everybody else, Simon, everybody has to have one. I won't have one. A, because I wouldn't know what station we're on. B, I don't want anyone to be able to get hold of me all weekend. So literally, I do it for a purpose. Yes. But in the festival weekend, my job is to be front of house, so to speak, in respect of looking after the bands, making sure that when the bands come in, I introduce myself, I talk to the managers, make sure that they're happy, that they've got everything they want, make sure that everything's running smoothly on the band side of things, as well as, we'll do a lot of interviews over the weekend with different types of media. But my job has to stay band related because I've got to make sure that everything is working and that they're happy and there's no problems over the festival weekend. And you do encounter them. We've had bands arrive where things have gone missing, that they've been lost by the airport. Devin Townsend came one year and the Birmingham airport lost all his gear. Yeah. And I mean everything. Yeah. He arrived at the festival. Just for the record, he is the most amazing person in the world because he didn't know. Yeah. He just borrowed a load of gear off other bands and just shrugged his shoulders and said, it'll still be a fucking killer show.
Yeah. Cool. I think, didn't Corrosion of Conformity have same issues last year? They'd lost Pepper's guitar and a few other bits and bobs, and their drummer was ill just before and things like that.
It happens. You've got people in the field, you've got people flying in from one show to another, gear gets lost or gear gets delayed. It's how you deal with it, I think, that's the big thing, and how you perceive it to the band. You do it positively and you say, well, it's a problem, but we're going to solve it. The band is much more at ease.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, that covers your role. That's all good. So thank you for all that information about that. I'm definitely going to ask you about the strongman competition because those of you that know will know all about your gym activities and that lot. So tell us a little bit about the strongman activities and what's going on this year.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. I'm super excited about this because anyone that knows me or follows me knows that I'm a huge fan of bodybuilding and strongmen. So we have the strongmen under 90 kg European finals at Bloodstock, but we also have this year the women's strongmen. strong women, should I say, of course. And we've got the likes, we've got some big names like the Donna Moore, who is world's strongest woman, attending the festival. That will be held all over the Friday, Saturday and Sunday of different heats and different finals. It's a great competition. The guys are the nicest bunch to work with. They're huge and they lift some ridiculous weight, but obviously we've had things like the Vikings and everything else. We've had the best reaction since we've added the strong guys into the festival.
Yeah.
It just seems to be a good synergy with Bloodstock and the heavy metal world. And who doesn't like watching strongmen and women?
Okay.
It's fun.
Cool. Well, hopefully I'll hopefully be out and about a little bit more this year, because we probably overdid it a little bit with the Bloodstock TV interview schedule last year. So I'm hoping to get out and see a few more bands this year. So, you know,
try not to chain you to the backstage area just doing interviews.
No.
Is what you're saying?
Well, basically, we've got Bloodstock TV and we'll have Bloodstock Radio this year as well. So we might have to do a bit, but I might try and bring a few more people with me, and we'll try and spread it around a little bit. Let's say so. That should be good.
Perfect.
Okay, so just a couple of very quick one-liner questions for you then to finish this off then. If there's one band other than Judas Priest that you could bring to Bloodstock and everything would work out and it would be perfect, who would you bring?
Body Count.
Oh, good shout. I like them. I saw them at Download a few years ago. Very good. Okay.
We did try and make it work this year. It didn't work, but, you know, who never say never.
Okay, cool. Then this one, live webcasts. Okay, you know what I'm going to ask you now. Did you sabotage the chair?
You know what? I'd only wish I'd thought about it and actually done something way worse.
Yeah.
But in matter of fact, no, I didn't. It was at his house, so bear in mind it was his own chair.
Yes.
Secondly, I had tried to think of reruns of horrible things I can do to him in the live podcast. But thirdly, he nearly died, in my opinion, because what people didn't see was when he fell off the chair, his head was stuck under the radiator for a moment. So I'm no good at CPR or giving any type of medical assistance.
You were too busy
laughing.
I wasn't
busy laughing.
Yeah.
I'm the worst person. Never have an accident around me, especially if it's serious. But he survived.
I was actually on a train into London to watch a gig, and I had I hooked up to the train's Wi-Fi, and it came up the notification that the live stream was on, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And it was absolutely chocker. It was rammed on the train, and it was very bitty and very thingy, but the stream sorted itself out literally seconds. He started waving the anthrax pass around and then literally went, and I was laughing my head off. And there was people stood behind me on the train that had seen it as well, that were looking over my shoulder and watched what had happened. And I was in the middle of a packed train watching it. It was brilliant. It
was amazing. And you know what? You couldn't write it because the timing of it was perfect.
It was. Some of the screenshots, it's just these two little feet.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. I have it. I go to. If I'm having a shit day, I put the rerun on. Or a rubbish day. I shouldn't swear. A rubbish day.
It's all right. It's all good. Cool. All right. Well, cheers for that, Vicky. That's really, very, hopefully been very enlightening for everyone as well as for me. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys back at Bloodstock in August.
Absolutely, and all we need now is pray for dry weather and sunshine, which I've ordered.
Yes, that's all right.
And we're going to have a cracking weekend of fun.
We are, absolutely we are. Thanks for talking to us, Vicky, and we'll see you in August.
Marvellous, we'll see you then.
announcements.
So that was our newly announced Bloodstock 2019 Saturday night headliners Parkway Drive with a track called Bottom Feeder, and a big thank you again to Vicky from Bloodstock for doing that interview with us back in 2017. Okay, next up we're actually going to have another item that we've had on the podcast before, but I have to say that it is one of the most popular items we've ever featured on Bloodstock Radio, and it's still sadly very relevant today. This is a feature sent in by H from Acid Rain talking about mental health, coming up next on Bloodstock Radio.
And now on Bloodstock Radio, the Gospel according to H from Acid Rain.
Hello, Bloodstockers. My name's Howard H. Smith. Some of you may know me as the lead singer of Acid Rain. I also have my own podcast, Talking Bollocks, which is a sort of comedy heavy metal podcast. Give it a whirl sometime. I also do spoken word shows. I've been performing stand-up comedy for the last 20 years. I also perform as a comedy character, Keith Platt. So there you go. That's me. I was lucky enough with Acid Rain to headline the Sophie stage back in 2016, which was amazing. And for those of you that came that night, thank you very, very much. For those of you that couldn't make it, never mind. Catch us next time. So I wanted to talk to you all. It's kind of odd, really. I'm 47 years old, and I may well not have been here if it wasn't for something that I did about 5 years ago. I went for counselling. I had reached a point in my life where things had become unsustainable. My life, my thought patterns were extremely unhelpful. I was miserable, and I always thought there was something else. I went through 4 jobs, miserable in all of them, and it wasn't until I became self-employed and was still miserable that I had to kind of look at myself and say, right, okay, what have all of those jobs got in common? That's right, me. I'm the problem. And because I was self-employed, I had no money, so I went to my doctor and I asked for some help. I said, look, I'm really struggling, and luckily I had a very good GP who referred me on the NHS, and they called me about 10 days after my initial appointment with the doctor, and they did a 20-minute interview over the phone. They asked me if I'd ever done any kind of sort of therapy at all, and I said yes. I've been doing psychotherapy on and off, which was great when I was doing it, but when I stopped doing it, I'd just go back, and this had become a cycle I was stuck in, where I was feeling okay when I was talking to somebody on a regular basis, then I'd stop thinking I was okay, and then I'd end up back at square one, and I wanted to try and not be in that routine anymore, and I couldn't afford to pay for private psychotherapy anymore. So I was recommended for a 16-week course of CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. And for me, I guess it's probably, I don't know if I ever would have ended up taking my own life, but so I'm not going to say it saved my life, but it certainly turned my life around completely. I mean, we released as a band, Acid Rain released a single last year called The Man Who Became Himself, which is pretty autobiographical on my behalf. Check out the lyric video on YouTube, kids. You see, even when I'm being serious, I've still got to get a plug in there. But I wanted to talk to you about all of this because for those of you who are aware of me and what I do, I might seem like the last person that you would expect to be going through anything like this. And if there's anybody listening to this who is feeling like any of this is ringing a bell, then hopefully, if you can hear me talking about this, it'll make it easier for you to pick up the phone, and it's just a simple call to a GP that can make all the difference. I mean, it really did turn my life around. And with the worrying statistics about, the biggest killer of men under 50 being themselves, being suicide, it really is something that we need to address, and we need to have an open conversation about, because far too many men are not dealing with their emotions, not processing things that have happened to them either in their childhood or their lives that they keep locked away, they don't talk about, and it ends up killing them. And I for one tried everything to avoid dealing with issues that I deep down knew I had. And in that very first session of CBT, I came out with some stuff that had been in my head for years, and it felt so good to say it out loud. It became real. It became something I could actually handle, I could deal with, as opposed to just something bouncing around in my head. And I tried everything. I was changing jobs, I was buying sports cars, I was going out with girls who were much younger than me, than I shouldn't have been going out with, and just constantly trying to paper over the cracks of unhappiness in my life. But in myself, I wasn't happy with myself, and you are never gonna be happy until you're happy with yourself and your own skin. I remember hearing a very interesting story. Well, it's not a story, but it's kind of a story. Well, it is a story, but it's told in the concept of to describe depression. And that story is that you can wake up in a beautiful house in an amazing part of the world. You get up and you look out the window and there's a beautiful sandy beach leading to a blue ocean. The sun's out, there's a slight breeze. It looks absolutely stunningly beautiful. And you think, my God, this is perfect. And then you realise you're there, ruining it. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. If you're not happy in yourself, you're not going to find happiness. And I'd hit rock bottom. I knew that I had to do something. And I remember going and filling out, you have to fill out a form when you first get there. And there's various questions about your emotional state. Do you find yourself being, really unhappy, very unhappy, completely depressed? How many times? Once a week, twice a week? Questions like this. And there was a final question about suicidal thoughts. And it says, do you have suicidal thoughts once a week, more than once a week, once a day? And there wasn't even a box for me to tick, which was multiple times a day. But when I say suicidal thoughts, I'm going to describe that in a little bit more detail. Nobody suddenly thinks, oh, I know what, I'll kill myself. There's either been several attempts or it's a thought that grows. And I have enough distance from how I used to feel to be able to look back on it objectively and see where I was. And I know, looking back, I can see that suicide, when you have problems, when you have emotional problems, when you have depression, you get stuck in a vortex of thinking that is completely unhelpful to you, and it's just self-destructive. And when you're stuck in these thought patterns, at some point or another, you get to the end of this thought pattern, and one day suicide pops into your head as a solution. You think, oh, well, yeah, well, that would sort everything out. And you don't think, oh my God, right, okay, well, better go and get some pills. You just think, right, okay, oh, well, there's that. And then the next time you're in that unhelpful place and you're in that down place, suicide's already there. It's already a discussion that you've had once before with yourself. And it starts becoming a regular thing. It starts appearing at the end of those thought patterns every time you get into that deep, dark place. And it happens more and more often. And it almost becomes like a go-to. Oh, well, yeah, look, don't worry too much, because there's always that. There's always that final solution at the end there. And that's, you've always got that in your back pocket. You've got that. Do you want to gamble? Or, you've got that, you're safe. Sorry. But it eats away at you, and it actually, you can actually end. It's amazing what the human brain can rationalize, and you can end up rationalizing that as a solution to also, you see it as a solution for you, but you also think that's a solution for everyone else as well, because you think you're pretty much worthless, and you're cluttering up other people's lives as well, and wouldn't it just that's actually a cure-all situation. Everybody would be better off. And that is obviously not a healthy place to be in at all. And please, this is not just men I'm talking to. This is women as well. I know that, you know, the human mind is an incredibly powerful thing, and we all have one, and it really can play tricks on us. And sometimes you can wonder why you seem to be your own worst enemy. But you know, there is also a social conditioning that leads to men not dealing with their emotions properly enough. I mean, even simple things like breaking up in relationships. I remember, you know, I've had countless failed relationships. Hey, I'm 47, I'm not married, and I've got no children. I look back on breakups, and I think I remember, you know, being in breakups and seeing girls sort of, they would appear to have completely moved on, you know, within a month. And I'd still be there, still processing it, still wallowing in the death of this relationship. And but what it was is that you know, and also feeling really, you know, really real hatred towards her for moving on so quickly. But of course, what she'd done is she'd emotionally processed what had happened. You know, she'd grieved for it. She'd cried her heart out. And got it out and dealt with it and moved on. Whereas as a guy, I wasn't able to cry it out. I wasn't able to emotionally deal with it. And, you know, it would take me a year to get over a breakup that you know, a partner would get over in a month. And that's purely because I just didn't have the emotional tools to deal with it, and I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody about it, and it would fester, and that's just one example of there is still this machismo society. There is still this masculine, you know, don't talk about your emotions, don't show emotions, don't cry, don't ask for help, and that is what is holding back so many men of my age from asking for help. And it's just such a shame. And all it takes is a call to a GP. That's all it takes. And not only that, it's, for me, I know it's going to be hard for some people to talk to a stranger, but believe me when I say that talking to a stranger is the best thing, because a stranger's not going to judge you. A stranger doesn't know who you are. A stranger doesn't know your friends. A stranger doesn't know where you work. A stranger doesn't know anything about you. And they don't bring all of the baggage that your friends or family who've known you for years, they don't bring any of that baggage to the conversation. They are purely an advocate for you. They are there to help you. When you talk to them, they've got no preconceptions of who you are, what you do, where you've been, what you're about, what you have done, what you haven't done. You know, they are purely there as somebody to be there for you and you solely. And it is it's a liberating feeling. It really is. And if any of you out there are listening, and if any of this rings true, please do get help, ring the doctor, you know, and also, look, I'm not a therapist, but if you want to message me, if you want to tweet me, or, you know, I'm more than willing to have a conversation with anyone about this, because having done 16 weeks of CBT, I've come out the other side of it so much happier. My life has changed immeasurably, and I've changed as a person, and all of my friends and family are, you know, amazed to this day the difference in me. And you know, you need to get help, and it'll get worse before it gets better, but believe you and me, it is worth it. And if you haven't got your health, whether it's physical or mental, what have you got? You know? And the thing about this is, it's not something you can see. You know, if someone's got a broken arm, you know there's something wrong with them. But this hides, and it is there, and it is there. It has the potential to be there in any of us. So, you know, whatever you're doing whilst you're listening to this, if anything I've said has rung a bell, just make that call, and it just has to be to your GP. And if they can't refer you, then they'll find you somebody who can. And if they can't refer you within that particular practice, then they'll find you somebody who can. You know, it's just something I feel really passionately about, and it's something that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I am going to be appearing on on this podcast occasionally, and it's not all going to be really depressing, okay? And it's not all going to be really serious, because that's not my nature. I am a comedian after all. But I wanted to, I don't know, I guess I wanted to share with you a little bit more of me than maybe some of you really wanted to hear about. You know, sorry for sharing more than you cared to know about me. But ultimately, we're a community, and the metal world is just amazing. There's nothing else like it. No other genre of music has the kind of religious devotion and forums that we do, and this Bloodstock podcast is one of them. And you know, it's an incredible thing, and I just wanted to try and share a really positive message with you all. And over the coming weeks and months, that you will get various clips of stupidity from me, and you will get me playing my favourite tunes and all the rest of it. But I just kind of wanted to introduce myself to you all, if none of you knew who I was, and if some, and which is, I would say, most of you. And for those of you that are aware of my work or whatever, then, you know, just let you know that not everything is as it seems on the surface sometimes, and I guess it doesn't hurt to share that with you all. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you're all well. I'd like to thank Paul for this opportunity to speak to you all. I will be doing again, as I've said. Check out my podcast, Talking Bollocks, where there won't be any of this. It's just pure me mouthing off like an idiot. And check out some of my comedy if you want. keithplatt.co.uk, acidrain.co.uk. Talking Bollocks is on YouTube and in all your podcast apps. And once again, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Take care. Speak to you next time. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Matty J from the band Psychostick, and I really want to play Bloodstock. So, hashtag why not Psychostick? I don't know. We're okay. We smell good. We shower. We're not that expensive. We have a good time. We don't drink that much beer, I swear. I love you, Bloodstock. Please? Pretty please? With Psychostick on top.
Yes, indeed. My mate Matty J. Moose from Psychostick there shamelessly begging to play at Bloodstock. And before that, we had my good friend H from Acid Rain with an awesome feature about mental health, followed by that song he mentioned, The Man Who Became Himself. And don't forget that Acid Rain have a new album on the way. Okay, that's us pretty much done, but we're going to close with a newly released track from this year's Sunday night Sophie headliners, Elvati. This is the title track of their upcoming album, Ategnatos, which is out on April the 5th on Nuclear Blast Records. Hope you enjoy it. I've been Squatter, and we'll see you next time on Bloodstock Radio.
Bloodstock Radio.
O bright sun of the night, I lift my eyes up to thee. O ye amber golden light, let the dark sweep over me. Mighty cauldron, O Nidus, I surrender all to thee. Panacean nothingness, when nothing is left.
the fans, for the fans. Bloodstock Radio.